All right, guys. Well, little introduction. I just want to present myself. My name's Eric. First name's Ronald. Do not make fun of Ronald McDonald. No, I'm just kidding. I just want to share. I was originally born and raised in this church. I spent 21 years faithfully coming. Got into ministry. Derek himself taught me piano, and I truly found a connection to why people worship, without fully understanding or even reading and studying the Bible itself. The community itself in unison when they praise was a feeling of, I can't express it. Sometimes it's just overpowering. But at some point in my life, I decided I'm out. And I left the church. And I went through some heavy trials that put me in a different perspective. And I even started introducing what the world had to offer to better justify my own beliefs. But as of 4 or 5 years ago, I've been getting a heavier call to come back and to grasp what I'd never took the time to understand. So one thing that really hit me on the verse that I got was 2 John chapter 1, verse 6 through 11. And one thing that I wanted to get to is I don't, just to give you a little background, I guess John was writing a letter to his church here. This was around 80 to 100 AD, right? And what's interesting is that when he's writing this letter, he's writing it to a church, a group of believers that already took in Jesus Christ as being flesh. Both man and both holy divine came, and he's here for our salvation, to what was promised to us from the beginning. And it goes back to that. I was like, well, what was the beginning? What do I understand? And the one thing that hit the most was the 10 Commandments. Obviously, off of this verse, go back to the beginning, and it kind of hit me. Do you guys, out of a question of curiosity, do you guys know the 10 Commandments by heart? So I'm on the same boat. So I just dug a little bit deeper into it. So I'm just going to go over it real quick. Number 1, thou shalt not have no gods before me. Pretty much God wants us to view him as the only living God. He's the only one to be worshipped, the only one to be obeyed, and the only one to be adored. Second commandments, no idols, do not carve anything in images. Pretty much don't make any object, image, or any substitute for God is the only one. Do not take the Lord's name in vain is number 3. And is really grasping how holy and sacred God's name is. To not be mocked or judged or made fun of, right? Number 5, honor your father and your mother. The chief is God. Focus. An extension is our parents. To honor them. To take on a responsibility and care for them. Number 6, you shall not murder. Pretty much whatever excuse you need to deliberately take the action of taking someone's life, refrain from it. Keep that away from you. Number 7, you shall not commit adultery. There's a big portion of faithfulness that gets broken when adultery gets involved. And if we as the church to God, if that faithfulness is broken, what are we doing? And that one weighed heavy. Commandment number 8, you shall not steal. Just don't take anything that's not yours, guys. I had a hard one with that one growing up. And you shall not bear false witness. No gossiping. And you shall not covet your neighbor's house, his wife, his anything. Don't want what other people want. For what we've been given for us. And in return for them, they've been given it for them. And fully understanding that. So going back into the verse that I was given in 2 John. Sorry. Yeah, 2 John verse 6. This is love, and this is John, writing the letter to the people and them perceiving it. This is love, that we walk in the commandments. And it's really fully understanding that we walk in these commandments. That it's been told from us from the beginning, and it's been elected to us to fully walk and have that desire of obedience so we could demonstrate that love that can be given to one another. Some examples I found in John chapter 14, verse 15. If you love me, keep my commandments. Another one is 1 John chapter 2, verse 5. But whatever keeps his word truly, the love of God is perfected in him. And that one was exciting. It was like, how do we get to that perfection of love? 1 John chapter 5:13 is these things that I have written to you who believe in your name, in the Son of God. Now there's the introduction of Jesus and the thought of Jesus. In verse 7, it reads, for many deceivers have gone out into the world who do not confess Jesus Christ as him in the coming flesh. And this is a deceiver and an antichrist. With just that little brief description of my experience here in the beginning, my intro, I started to really think on its subject, and I came up with to be loved. Because I was trying to understand something that I never really took the time or the time to really fully understand. God sends his only son for us, to save us. And within that portion, I'm trying to come back to it, but I also recognize the fact that I was gone. I was a deceiver. I left. I wanted to believe something else outside of Christ. But even then, coming back to it and really hearing what the word is saying, it says, beloved, do not believe every spirit, because it's deceitful. God already gave us a reward. He already promised us something that's been given to us, and there's a beauty in him, one, putting caution into people that are out here deceiving, but also you guarding up to what's been given to you. If I hold fast to my reward, then I know that when I die and I have my judgment, I hope I get that reward. If we're all shooting for the same thing. When I jump into the next verse, look to yourselves that we do not lose those things that we worked for, but that we may receive it in a full reward. The same thing. Guarding ourselves to really fully understand that the reward has already been given. That there's no works that we can do that could put us at that level of perfection, because it's already there. Verse 9. Whoever transgresses and does not abide in the doctrine of Christ does not have God. And he who does abide in the doctrine of Christ has both the Father and the Son. And this is a beautiful verse in helping you identify people's love for God. Because overall, to my thought of to be loved is more in the perspective of God sitting back saying, to be loved from my children, from my kids, from my believers. And in John chapter 7, verse 16, Jesus answered them and said, my doctrine is not mine, but of he who sent me. And in John 8, chapter 8, verse 31, Jesus said to those Jews who believed in him, "If you abide in my word, you are my disciple indeed." So, in a little quick wrap up, I wanted to ask you guys, how does it feel to be loved? And really understanding why it is that we love him. That's something that I couldn't stop reflecting on overall of him writing the letter. And granted, during the time, 4-5 emperors had been persecuting Christians and really slaughtering them. Fun fact, 80 AD, the Colosseum was being built, just another arena for Christians to fall into. But what was beautiful about it is that regardless of within those times, John was writing this letter to a group of people who I feel like accepting the thought of like, you're thinking of me in these hard times, just reflects how much love there is and how much love God has to give, aside from what he's already given us and promised us and shown to us. And that's it. Yeah.